From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe, where tomorrow's news is probably a couple years away, but yesterday's news is today, I'm pretty sure. We are your almost topical podcast host, Taylor and Chelsea, looking at something that's happened in the real recent events for us. For a whole episode.
Be unfolding.
Yeah.
And it feels so wrong.
This should be a 2027 episode at the earliest.
It's so true. Why are we even covering this? We're breaking it, I think. Well, that being said, I think instead of coming in late, we're coming in right on time. Probably. I don't know. Maybe it already happened by now. Maybe we are coming in late. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's coming in
so the weird thing is
right
we
now.
Still record a little bit early, so we don't know for sure.
Right now, yes. Sometimes no. You may or may not have been hearing rumblings of something going on with a little thing called disclosure. And you know what? I don't think this one is quite fringy enough. We're going with it.
I still think it's pretty fringy. I haven't heard anybody outside the UFO community know anything about this.
Let's see what we think about it at the end.
Okay.
I would call myself a UFO enthusiast. I feel as if we have had disclosure and we've seen UFOs, like we have had disclosure technically, right? That was that 2017 thing.
I mean, we've had congressional hearings on UFOs. It's never really amounted to what I would consider disclosure. And I guess it really depends on what you mean by disclosure. And when I hear somebody say the government disclosure, it's the government comes out and says, we know about UFOs. They don't have to say this part, we have a UFO, but here are the documents about all our interactions with UFOs.
Okay, and that brings up a good point, like what would disclosure look like to you? Now, to me, I feel like we've had it, like we all saw the Tic Tac video on the news, that was big news, and ever since then, it's just kind of been like, yeah, we know about it. Like, to me, anyway, I've just shrugged and, I'm like, yeah, I thought we already knew that. But to different people, it's different things. Like, some people do want to see a craft. Some people want, like, yes, we know UFOs exist. Well, they have done that by releasing that video. They said that they knew that they exist.
Well, and that's that thing. There's always been an acknowledgement that there's UAPs or UFOs in the sky. It's never gone that they are entities that we don't know about, which I think is the difference here.
Yeah, but I think they were saying that with the video. But to more my point, I think I'm going to go on a limb to say it's more likely a common attitude that I have. I thought I had an idea of what's going on and what's being worked on. Turns out I was way in the dark, and there is way more to learn about what's been going on. Possibly that was the plan all along, for that to be the attitude, the one that I exactly adopted, just like, yeah, we saw it on TV, it exists, like we already know that. I was listening to a lot the last little bit, and there were some people who were saying this is a very slow trickling out process of what's going on. And it's very bureaucratic at this level because it has to go through so many hearings and they're releasing little by little, and it becomes boring at that point. The bureaucratic process is not necessarily a thrilling thing.
That's where most people lose their interest and say disclosure didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something seriously suspicious is going on. And it only took me a little bit of digging when I started to get the suspicion for it to unravel into a million different directions. And there are a lot of moving parts in what I'm about to talk about. We know some of the people in the game, some we have covered, some we've not, and some of those who are not are on our list, so I'm really excited to talk about this. Let's take a little bit of a look about what's been going on. There's obviously more before this, but for purposes of this episode, this is where I saw fit to start. In June 2023, so not that long ago, David Grush testifies in front of Congress, being the first big whistleblower with claims about a secret program where we were retrieving and studying extraterrestrial technology since the 40s. And he's a former U.S. Air Force officer. There's a big smear campaign against him right now, and he's on our eventual list.
Yeah.
So they're trying to discredit David Grusch right now. That's a whole other thing.
And famously hated by Dr. Greer.
Yes. There's that. So at this point, in June 2023, all we've had are people from the outside saying that they have heard of knowledge of people being within a program in the government where they're retrieving UFOs. No one has actually come forward who has actually retrieved these UFOs. That's an important note. November 13, 2024, the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Accountability held a hearing titled United Anomalous Phenomena: Exposing the Truth. Rayburn House Office Building in Washington, D.C. at 11:30 a.m. That was a mouthful. Luis Elizondo testifies that he was a part of some government program, something like that. This episode isn't about him either. Let's move on. But here is where Immaculate Constellation, and I kept calling it Conception when I was Googling it, which
it's really
brings up
hard
a whole other topic. That's not the same thing. And I had to keep correcting myself. So this document is presented in front of Congress, which is an 11-page document. It's super easy to find. And
Nancy Mace, who's in Congress, posted it to her website.
She did,
withholding the first page, suspiciously enough.
Interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, it's super easy to find. And here it says, I'm just going to read you a section. Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged special access program, USAP, established following the public disclosure of the ATIP, ASWAP, CES, I don't know what these things mean, programs by Luis Elizondo in 2017. Upon disclosure to Congress, it was determined that this USAP and its collateral information have not been lawfully reported to Congress. Immaculate Constellation's primary mission is collecting imagery intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and ARV reproduction vehicles utilizing tasked and untasked U.S. military intelligence resources as part of a network of SAPs linked to non-human intelligences and UAP technologies.
So they just expect you to know what all these acronyms means reading this, I take it.
Well, no, they're putting a lot of them in. The SAPs, I have no idea what that is. Immaculate Constellation acts as a nexus for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence on the activities, capabilities, and locations of anomalous aerospace threats that originate from foreign or identified sources. The intelligence within the Immaculate Constellation program primarily consists of high-quality imagery intelligence, the collateral measurements and signatures intelligence of UAPs, blah blah blah, ARVs within Earth's atmosphere. The collection platforms involved are a blend of tasked and untasked capabilities in low Earth orbit, the upper atmosphere, military and civilian aviation altitudes, and maritime environments. So basically what they're saying is that there's been something going on in the government where they've been tracking photos from the military of UAPs and stuff like that, and it should have been reported to Congress. So it's been operating without its knowledge, and they've been collecting all this information on UAPs. There is a specific journalist who broke the actual program of Immaculate Constellation. I always want to call it the wrong thing. And he goes by Michael Schellenberg. And he also testified on this date, telling the representatives that there's a, quote, growing body of evidence that the government is not being transparent about what it knows about unidentified anomalous phenomena, and that elements within the military and intelligence community are in violation of their constitutional duty to notify Congress of their operations. Schellenberg stated that there is a secret program within the U.S. government known as Immaculate Constellation, whose sole purpose is to collect UFO and UAP reports from military personnel and censor data and quarantine them away from the rest of the government and military. While he noted that a Pentagon spokesperson has stated no such program exists, Schellenberg recounted prior examples in which the Department of Defense has initially denied knowledge of UAP-related information, only to later change its stance and either admit the information exists or releases it to the public.
So his position is because they've denied things in the past, it's proof that this denial is not correct. Is that kind of how he's saying it?
I guess he's using that log. Yeah. So he obtained this information through various whistleblowers. And so now we have this document that has been presented to Congress. So just in the sake of, we have a lot to cover in this episode, I just want to jump quickly. This document covers a lot of crazy sightings from the military. It covers USOs. It covers a floating sphere that just floated over the ocean for hours. It's crazy. So I'm just going to read a couple of the military personnel testimony that's in this document. Cuboid formation of metallic orbs. On USG networks, there exists daytime FMV and daytime FLIR footage of a formation of 12 metallic orbs skimming the ocean surface at high speed before dispersing in multiple directions. The rapid and agile maneuvering of the metallic orbs were incompatible with known aerospace vehicles and were between 3 to 6 meters in diameter. In the opening segment of this footage, the 12 metallic orbs flew in a tight cuboid formation. The metallic orbs were in 3 vertical square formations of about 4 orbs each, arranged in a 3-pronged configuration, creating the illusion of a cube shape at distance. All the orbs were white hot against the black cold ocean in the FLIR footage, and each sphere created a faint atmospheric distortion both around itself and as a heat shimmer contrail. The metallic orbs moved in this cube formation over the ocean for some time before rapidly breaking formation as pairs. The sensor platform lost track of most of the metallic orbs as they ascended in altitude and accelerated in speed, but maintained observation on a pair of metallic orbs continuing the original trajectory of the larger formation.
So I guess this was near like military equipment just because
yes,
it's military people. So
yeah,
it wouldn't be just like drones doing some sort of practice thing because they would know there's military in the area.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm going to share just one more. There's a bunch of these if you want to pull up the document. This one is Jellyfish UAP crosses US-Mexico border. On USG networks, there exists FLIR footage of an irregularly shaped UAP flying across the southern border. UAP appeared in FLIR to be mottled, M-O-T-T-L-E-D. Mottled?
Mottled, yeah.
Never heard that word before. Irregularly, with hot, cold emissions, and do you know what it means?
Marked with spots or smears of color.
Ah, okay. Irregularly with hot, cold emissions and approximated a jellyfish or floating brain with hanging appendages in appearance. Creepy. The UAP flew against the wind with no visible means of propulsion, maintained an unnatural rigidity in its movements and flight path, maintained a comparatively low altitude to geographic features. In appearance and behavior, footage of this UAP violating the airspace of the southern border resembled the same class of UAPs observed near DoD facilities in Iraq and Afghanistan. There exists at least one compilation video of this class of UAP, sourced from DoD Forest Protection Assets and Theater ISR, which uses this footage as a point of comparison. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on this, but they use a lot of military jargon that I don't know what they're talking about. That cube one is creepy though. It's available. Taylor already said the place that it's through.
I think that's where it was. It was Nancy Mace had it on her website.
Yeah, Nancy Mace has it on her website. You can download it there. It's only 11 pages, but we don't have enough time to go through.
It's supposed to be 12, but the first page is miraculously missing.
That's why they said 12.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out all of this document was written by Jeremy Corbell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's on the first page. Yeah.
So why would they take that off?
Yes, that is something that I wanted to know too. I was saving it for a later episode.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. I thought it was a typo, so I turned all the 12s into 11. My bad. Thank you for saying that. So we're going to move on from there. Not enough time to think about it. Let's move. January 13, 2025, which as of recorded, that's 13 days ago. Jeremy Corbell, funny enough, claims that we're going to be told that there is a craft of extraterrestrial origin on its way to Earth and will be here by 2027. But that will be a lie. And he says his information is coming from reliable military intelligence sources. He discloses this on the last episode of his new show that's called UFO Revelation on Tubi. I actually just want to play that for you right now.
Okay.
Hear it?
Should there be sound right now?
Your government now wants you to know
I can hear it.
One truth. And that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already done told you. Sometimes when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie. And that's coming. I have zero doubt. That lie is coming.
What is the lie?
Specifically, you want me to say it right now, for real? Real? On camera? To be put in the show?
Yes.
Okay. Problem with that. If we tell the lie before it's told, they can adapt. That wouldn't be wise. I'll tell you privately, but I would really think about if you want to put this in your show. For real. That's a real thing I'm telling you. So will you think about it before?
I really like that.
Okay.
That Schrodinger's cat of
so UFOs
I can't
are real.
tell you the lie because then it won't be a lie because they'll change what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the lie is coming. All indications, like all of them, is that that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you to believe. It's nuanced, how they explain that, the nature of that threat. But that 100% is the lie you are going to be told. You even got a date.
Oh, language.
People have been whispering a
I should
date
believe that.
for a long time now.
It's a family
I know
episode.
where that lie comes from. I know specifically what document from the 70s initiated the idea of that lie. A classified document. That is the lie you will be told. You're going to be told that there is a craft on its way to Earth. That's the lie. Maybe I'm wrong. Hope
Yeah, you're
I'm
probably
wrong.
wrong.
Didn't he say
I sent you
100%?
text today with a year. Not from me.
Oh, dramatic. Hear the text.
Nope. I'm not going to propagate that lie. Not going to be part of it. Not going to say it to the camera.
What?
Everybody knows.
Did you see the text
Just
that
start
said,
paying
"What's
attention."
this?" And he just said,
And they'll change the date.
2027.
And then said 2027
Yeah.
again, yeah.
Things will change. Because maybe I'm trustworthy.
Do you think
Maybe I'm
that
worthy of your
clarified
trust.
it?
Maybe I've told you the truth the whole way through it. Now you can verify it. If that's the case,
Okay, enough
then
of
I'm
this.
fucking dangerous.
You're missing all the dramatic close-ups and stuff like that, but
Yeah. Yeah, truly you can't appreciate this without seeing it. But yeah, Chelsea, that was maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and I had to hear it through the whiny voice of Jeremy Corbell.
he does have a whiny voice. Yeah, I don't like the voice.
Started off by saying, there's a lie. I can't tell you the lie because then the lie won't happen if I tell you.
Okay,
He then
here it
tells
is.
us 100% this is the lie, but then he says maybe it won't happen, and then he says, see, like how I texted it to you, and all it said was 2027 twice. With a ... at the end of that last one.
What? Okay. So, here's the thing about Jeremy Corbell. He works very closely with George Knapp, who I'm very scared to do a deep dive on. I love George Knapp, and I hope he's not an asshole because I love him. Corbell has released some military footage of UAPs, including, well, the first page in that whole document that I just read to you, apparently. He's been very involved with a lot of this disclosure stuff, though I don't know that he's actually working with Tom DeLonge's group.
Not as far as I know. But he has worked with Lou, has he not?
Yeah.
Maybe. I can't remember.
No. I was just listening to Wild Ride with Steve-O, of all podcasts, go figure.
Oh, man.
Why?
He does not have a voice for podcasts.
I know, he really doesn't, and I love him. But why Jeremy Corbell chose that podcast to immediately go on after that episode was aired? Like, this episode is just from not even a week ago. So why that podcast? I don't know. But I was listening to him on there, and I actually think he said that him and Luis Elizondo didn't get along. Don't quote me on that, even though I just listened to it today. I have a lot going on in my head.
It is incredibly rare for people in the UFO community to get along with more than one other person.
Yeah. So Jeremy Corbell's working on this disclosure stuff. Tom DeLonge's group they don't actually come up in this episode other than Luis Elizondo a couple times.
Actually, Chelsea, just sorry, while my thoughts process is still here, one of the few exceptions to that rule is Richard Doherty of all people.
Yeah. What a guy. Gotta love that guy. So Corbell has released some military footage of UAPs, including the USS Omaha video, where in July 2019, an object is seen moving across the water that goes into the water. A night vision video captured by naval personnel on the USS Russell in July 2019 showing a pyramid just floating in the sky. And with George Knapp, January 2023, they released an image of a metallic orb from a US spy plane over Iraq. Yeah, so he's actually working on all of this stuff. I don't know how like I said, these are not the episodes where we're looking into these people.
And there's
a lot of these people we said we're not going to be covering for a little bit because they're recent people. What's going on right now.
And Jeremy has a weird background in that, like, he has been a part of some big releases, but then he's also been involved with a lot of people that we've actually covered in the past as completely you should not take seriously.
Yeah, you find that with everyone. And his involvement with George Knapp, I mean, George Knapp and him have an ongoing podcast that I've never listened to.
Yeah, it's not that great of a podcast, honestly.
Which is sad because I love listening to George Knapp. And
no, it's honestly, Jeremy just butters up George Knapp's asshole the entire time. Just like feeding him like you're the greatest. Nobody's ever been as good as you. You work so hard on this. And it's just like, my God, like, just put some censor bars on here or something. I thought this was a family show.
Yeah, exactly. Family show. George Knapp is known for being a good investigator. He hasn't come out and stopped working with Jeremy Corbell over this statement that he's making, which may call into question George Knapp. I don't know. Let's get to the end of this. Even Steve, when we do Jeremy Corbell as an episode, I just had a slip, and you're gonna see why in a second. Moving on, we gotta move quickly. In comes Stephen Greer.
Oh, good. I knew he was in here too. I love it.
He comes out and says Disclosure Project is going to be releasing a collection of whistleblower accounts and documents in the next 72 hours. I'm going to stress that Jeremy Corbell and Stephen Greer do not work together.
They hate each other.
Now, I mean, it's not that hard to hate Stephen Greer. So I've had to listen to a lot of stuff that I did not like these past couple days. Now, what Stephen Greer is talking about is hard to wrap my head around. For one, he started a new podcast to talk about these disclosures.
Yeah, that was the first episode.
Yes, it was. And my God, is he hard to listen to. And I feel like I've heard all of this shit before.
I always actually feel like
the podcast.
The interviewer, when Stephen Greer's there, is actually like filtering it to be listenable and not insufferable.
It's not. So, he's all about briefing the presidents, and he was a doctor. And what he's saying is that there are two governments. The one we know, and then there's one operating in the background, the secret government.
Of course. Yeah.
And his whistleblowers are coming forward from the government operating in the background. Highly illegal, he says, but here they are deciding to come to.
Well, yeah, that's why all their non-disclosures are like null and void, isn't it? Because this government is illegal anyway, so you can't sign anything with an illegal thing, so that all the whistleblowers are just free to talk to him. Isn't that how it worked?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And I just love that he says that it's so illegal, but they're coming forward to him because they want to come out. And they're deciding to leak the info slowly to us and the regular government that we all know. They want it to be leaked to them as well. But listen to this. There is one thing that got my ears up, and this is where this is going to take a little bit of a turn. This had kind of been... I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to say a thing. I'm not going to say a thing. It's just a short blip on this one. We're not listening to very long, like we had to listen to fucking Jeremy Corbell. Okay, so first of all, it's going to give you a startle because he's not the best looking of men.
No, he definitely looks like a frazzled old man. I do really like he's doing a podcast with earbuds. And the earbuds, or sorry, not built earbuds, the corded headphones, corded earbuds with the built-in microphone on them. Like that is high level right there.
Ready?
Yeah.
The biggest part of this story isn't the extraterrestrial part of it, ironically. That's secondary. And in fact, people who have been in these covert programs that are very disinformation oriented have wanted the public to believe we're not alone, but that there's a threat.
Shut up, Tony Robbins.
And most of you who are familiar with my work know what Werner von Braun, through his spokesperson for the last 5 years of his life, Carol Rosin, said when he was dying, and in 1974 said the whole purpose of these covert programs, one of the big overarching purposes, is to be able to hoax a attack or an alien threat and present the extraterrestrial presence as a threat so that they could consolidate military power, industrial power, and also pivot the population through fear into realizing there's another enemy to fight. Now, when you're doing that, it's a long-term psychological warfare operation, a PSYOP. And the best way to do that is once they figured out and reverse engineered the extraterrestrial vehicles, the NHI craft, as they're calling them now, non-human intelligence craft, those then began to be deployed in the late 1950s into operational craft that look like a UFO. For most people in the lay public, they're indistinguishable from a vehicle. And those have been used in deceptive operations known as false flag operations. And these include everything that's in the pop culture on the subject, human abductions by aliens, mutilations of cattle and humans, and all kinds of skullduggery. Now, we can prove, if you go to our archive, that this has been a CIA PSYOP for many, many decades.
Enough. I wanted to hear, I don't know if you got the point that I was really...
It sounded like he was just copying Jeremy Corbell in a much vaguer sense.
Yeah, the thing that really got me to perk my ears up when it was just, you know what Stephen Greer talks about? What really perked my ears up was Werner von Braun, who was a part of Operation Paperclip, which was a secret U.S. program that recruited 16.
Yeah, great Nazi who came over to NASA. Yeah, we did an episode on it. I think, right? It's hard to remember.
Yeah, we did. No, it came up with Nazis on the Moon, I think.
Okay.
One of the Nazi episodes. Anyway, that kind of got me perking my ears up because you're gonna see here, I didn't know that this was being talked about. This kind of lie about aliens coming. And in the last couple weeks, all of these major people, Jeremy Corbell, Stephen Greer, we're going to get to another one, are leaking and coming out with this information.
Has anybody paid $3 to see Tranma's opinion on the subject?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Not to spoil it. But none of these people work together. So yeah, he's saying the same information that Jeremy Corbell is putting out there. But the Warner von Braun thing kind of got me to perk my ears up when I've been hearing this thing coming out more and more. The enormous amount of far-right shit that is being pushed in everyone's faces right now. I will just say that much. That's why I was like, what? Greer goes on to say, don't get confused. All aliens are very good and they're here to help us. He then goes on for another fucking hour and a half in his podcast, and I don't have time for that. My favorite part, for as far as I got, is when he was talking about meeting with the director of the CIA for Bill Clinton, or James Woolsey, I think is his name. Yeah. And then Greer says, but he denies meeting me because, well, my commentary on that is that he didn't want to hear that. And it's Washington and it's lawyers and politicians and what have you. And everybody knows what that means.
I always love that letter back from Woolsey. If you haven't listened to the Greer episodes, go listen. It's great. That's in the second half.
Oh, and speak of the devil, I wanted to see if David Wilcock was talking about any of this, and at the time of writing this, which was yesterday, I didn't feel like sifting through 175 hours of over 2 YouTube lives.
That are just in the last 3 weeks.
But I also just wasn't in the mood to entertain various forms of Tranma and Bad Daddy kids. So that's a very specific mood. But I did Google him, and then I was like, I don't really feel like it, but let's just check out if he's talking about this. And this post on X came up, which after I read this, I gave up on him. Here's David Wilcock. I just watched the inauguration and have never felt more proud of our country. It's still hard to believe this really happened, but here we are. Thank you to everyone whose hard work and sacrifice made this amazing day possible. So after that, I was fucking over that shit. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not even looking at this fuckface. But then, cut to today, because it's a constant evolving mess of bullshit going on here. There's a live, and I was like, let's just hop on the live. And the live was called, what was it called, Taylor? I sent to you.
Oh, the Blues for Blue Beam or something like that.
Blue Beam Blues. That is hard to say. And so I was like, this jackass has got to be talking about this. So I jump on it, and what did he say? He's been holding on to this info since 2009, and we're going to be seeing a fake alien invasion scenario play out in a relatively short amount of time. That's right. Between jumping back and forth between his multiple cameras and putting up his slides that say his hips finally feeling better, he said that Donald Trump made it past the deep state. They didn't want him to be president. And here he is. They got him there. And then I was out of there. I was like, enough of this bullshit.
So is he the one announcing then that the UFO's coming? And it's great that he got in, but he's going to lie to us?
Yes. I think that that's what everybody is pushing, is that it's going to be disclosed by Trump.
But it's a lie.
It's a lie.
Ah.
Mixed in with all of this, you think I wasn't going to talk about it, but I have to. January 16th, News Nation announces, actually David Wilcock was a little too far up in the timeline, but this is evolving. I had to add it in just before I jumped on.
Yeah, and I did bring up Tranma. You can't leave Tranma unaddressed.
Yes. And do you know how many times he brought up Tranma in the 20 minutes I was listening? It was ungodly.
He stumbled unaware. He can't stop.
He kept saying people were trying to distract him from his 5-hour-long freaking live. You would think you have enough time to fucking talk about how broke he is. To a million Tranma episodes. January 16th, News Nation announces Jake Barber, Air Force veteran, will be sharing his story about being a part of a secret military operation to retrieve an egg-shaped UFO. According to Barber, the craft was egg-shaped, like I said, seamless, metallic.
I do think it's important that this was within 72 hours of when Greer said something's coming out in 72 hours, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was seamless, metallic, repelled light, and stayed cool to touch, and there was a body found within the craft that was clearly not human. News Nation has all the receipts to back up his credentials. They've spoken with other people he's worked with, not willing to come forward, but are willing to say that they worked with him.
But not in the thing that he was doing that they're actually talking about, correct?
Right, yeah. It seems that Greer has tried to latch on to Barber, like Greer has something to do with it, as he does. And we know from our Greer episodes that he likes to do that. He's not associated with Barber at all. He's making it seem like he is. I'm also going to say I did catch a little bit of Greer's episode number 2 on his podcast, and he's using a whole bunch of News Nation clips of Barber in it, so he's really trying to grasp onto it like he has something to do with it, but he's not involved with Barber at all. So I'm going to read you just some highlights from the News Nation article that goes along with the story. So this is from the article titled Full Special Whistleblower Reveals UAP Retrieval Program Object Caught on Video by Ross Coulthart. Updated January 19, 2025. Jacob Barber says that for the past 30 years, he's worked in both an official and unofficial capacity for the United States government and its partners in the intelligence community. And while others have alleged that there's a secret government UAP retrieval program that's been going on for decades, people like David Grush and Luis Elizondo, they say they've been told about it, they believe it exists, but they weren't actually a part of it themselves. Barber, however, is different. He says he was a part of a covert program that worked with alien spacecraft for years. He says he was contracted as a helicopter pilot and he was part of a team assigned to retrieve crashed aircraft at an undisclosed testing facility in the desert. A lot of the work we did was on what I call the range, where the US government and its private partners used to test all kinds of things, weapon systems and resilience to weapons systems of certain craft. And so you see a lot of exciting things, said Barber. That's where Barber said he began to see strange things. It's always interesting out there, he said. Things come in and out of sight, things disappear for a moment and reappear, things seem to move very quickly, things change color, they change shape. Barber said that his team recovered things that were exotic in nature. We know they were classified craft, he said, and we recovered them and took them back to where they go. Just visually looking at an object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human, he said. Barber said he got his first glimpse of non-human pretty quickly. I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with a 150 to 200 foot long line, so I got within 100 feet of this object, he said. That's when he saw it. I saw an egg, a white egg, he said. There was no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came to pick it up. So I'm working under night vision goggles at the time, and it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways. Barber said the metallic pearly white object was about the size of an SUV. I can tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary, he said. While Barber said he was never told the craft wasn't human, he's certain. I'll tell you that because of the reaction of my leadership structure and because of my experience working in that capacity, everyone involved was convinced that what we were seeing and dealing with was, in fact, exotic in origin, said Barber. I will also tell you that during this process over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was, in fact, NHI non-human intelligence, and it was not a unique experience. Barber said he still doesn't know what exactly the object was or where it may be housed now. It would be taken to a secure facility, but my role stops once I deliver it, he said. That wasn't Barber's only brush with the Alex blade. There was another object. One was the egg, the other is what I called an 8-gun. The 8-gun was essentially a flying disc with what? Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be octagon.
Really?
Like an 8-sided gon.
8-gon. Yeah. Yeah, that
Octagon.
looks right. Thank you for clarifying that, because I had no idea what that meant. I just went with it.
I think that's what they mean.
That's a problem I have sometimes. Essentially a flying disc with what looked like 8 delineated sections when looking down. There you go, said Barber. And I can tell you what it looked like from looking down because that's primarily how I saw it, because I'm a helicopter pilot. We did recoveries with the 8 gons. There was more than one that made its way to the ground of this particular operation. Barber said what happened next would be one of the most profound experiences he's had in his life. As I get closer to the site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional, and the closer I get, the more emotion starts to overwhelm me, he said. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness with beauty and song, and it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at that time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night, and I began wondering what's wrong with me. Barber said it didn't feel like an emotional breakdown, but rather something entirely different. Drone sightings over Long Island Airport sparks concerns. Oh, I think that's a title going into the next one. No, that was an ad that I copied. Yep, that's an ad to another link. That out. I felt like something connected with me, he said. I'm just gonna skip over this.
Yeah, no, and I heard his, because this was in the interview too.
Yes,
I heard
that was,
and
that is,
that threw me
it's
for a
essentially
loop.
the same thing. I know.
Yeah, because it just seems like it shouldn't have been included, honestly, because like it just seemed like he was attaching too much emotion to what was actually going
Wasn't
on.
It seems like it kind of takes away from it, but
Exactly.
he does go in to say in the interview, and I think that's where he's getting at in this article, that there is a psychic connection with UAPs, and that's a part of what he's disclosing.
Yeah, see, he shouldn't be there for that because he didn't really have any part of it other than being emotionally affected by something,
Yes.
which anything can emotionally affect you.
And not to bring up John Keel, but I mean, we saw things, and it was our speculation on that part about people's emotional when they're seeing something that they can't fit into their regular life.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's other parts to it too. The big thing for me, sound frequencies can give an emotional response that you can't hear it, but it is impacting you.
Yes.
So maybe whatever it was you're picking up is emitting this high frequency sound that is impacting you, or something else. Maybe you had bad food for lunch. Maybe you didn't eat. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's why this is such a thing that really shouldn't be included here. And given the attachment to the video that they also had, the video's not great.
No, and that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. And I think that was everybody's reaction to this coming out, which is why I wanted to read a little bit of this article, because I saw the video and I was like, well, that sucks. It's just,
It could be
that's
anything.
a letdown.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was a huge lead up. They're saying he has high def footage, and then you see it and you're like, well, that doesn't look like anything. So I did want to put it out there because I don't know. And like I said, I didn't know a lot of this stuff going on with Disclosure as well. So we're all in this together. And if you're anything like me, you missed all of this. So I'm here to help you with it. So you
By this time, if you've been in the UFO community for any longer than just this Disclosure saga, you know to wait until it passes.
Definitely. Which is why we wait for a lot of these people. Something else I found out, apparently I'm really behind on the times because I was missing a lot of little details about what's been going on. Did you know that in July 2024, the US government passed the UAP Disclosure Act of 2024 and it's coming into effect in 2025?
I vaguely knew about it. It was Chuck Schumer talked about it a bit.
Okay.
and I've been seeing stuff about it. I knew something was happening. I didn't know the specific dates on it.
Yeah, so it's coming into effect. Corbell was talking a lot about whistleblower protection on Steve-O's podcast and how we need them to move forward because now they can't because they're scared of losing pensions and stuff like that. So they're really important in the movement.
And that's great that the current government is canceling security and any sort of support that they offer to people left and right.
Yeah. I know that's a lot to take in. There are lots of moving parts, but now I'm going to circle back to what Jeremy Corbell has said about someone big coming out and disclosing an ET aircraft on its way here. There just happens to be an ex-CIA agent who has said this exact thing that Corbell and Wilcock and Greer are all talking about. And he actually talked about this quite a while ago. He goes by the name of John Ramirez. I know you're just waiting for me to say Richard Doty.
I know, yes.
This is a different CIA guy. Coast to Coast AM bio, anyone? John Ramirez served from 1984 to 2009 in the CIA Directorate of Science and Technology, Directorate of Intelligence, and the ODNI National Counter-Proliferation Center, NCPC. During his 25-year career, he specialized in ballistic missile defense systems and signals analysis of weapon system radars. He served as the chief of base for an overseas technical collection facility and was chief of the Electronic Intelligence (ELINT) analysis branch. A founding member of the ODNI NCPC, he was the SIGINT specialist and multidiscipline collection requirement strategist for counterproliferation equities. Prior to his career in the intelligence community, John enlisted in the U.S. Navy as an electronics warfare technician. He is a graduate of the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. He is currently a member of the Association of Former Intelligence Officers and the Central Intelligence Retirees Association. You getting any red flags here?
I gotta say, there's a lot of letters, so my mind kind of just went blank for a minute there.
I know. I think they do it on purpose because you just kind of zone out when you hear too many letters. But he's in the Directorate of Intelligence. And not only that, he is still a part of the Central Intelligence Retirees Association. He is still involved with the CIA.
Yeah, and there's always the saying, I forget how it is, once in CIA, always in the CIA or
always
something like
CIA.
That. Yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen with you once more, and we're going to just watch this guy, if I can find him.
What we would do if there was like a mass landing.
Would
we just simply prepare for a conflict?
That's the podcast UFO guy, yeah.
Something. That's
right.
A scary thing.
Well, I think the dialogue we're having now in this country, even with the recent legislation that passed through the legislature and is on its way up to the president's desk, even with that, we're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population, into that reality that there is a presence here, and that we need to explain this presence. Because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before in previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic. But if you understand that these are real, and we have 5 years from 2022, or maybe now 4 years, if they come in 2027, for the U.S. government to prepare the people about what is up there. And in many ways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up in 2027, and we better be prepared. And if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do. And so I think that dialogue has happened within inside the government, in certain areas inside the government, that we need to prepare. And that's why in 2017, that set a clock of 10 years. And why Lou Elizondo earlier in this year said, just find a hobby for 5 years And it'll all be out in 5 years. And he said that this year, so that was 2027. And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity that I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening, and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people, and that's what's ramping up this acceleration from the previous 7 decades.
He can say it's 2027, but I can't tell you who told me this.
Acknowledging it at a faster and faster pace.
So this is kind of where traces back to is this guy.
Interesting.
I don't know where he's getting his information from, and he's a CIA agent.
Who talks to Lou Elizondo, okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that for you to just sit with. He gives me massive Doty vibes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm going to say that. Now, for a fun part of this, and thank you to David Wilcock for the soft intro into this portion of the podcast. I don't have a date on this one, but I just want to talk a little bit about Project Bluebeam, which is also another weird thing that comes into play in all of this. Project Bluebeam, we haven't talked about before. We probably should have. This is a very good time to start talking about Project Bluebeam.
Because it came up in the Norway Spiral.
Yes, it did. That was a very quick reference you pulled out. Yes, it did. Just a quick background on it.
Just one more ad. It might have come up in HARP as well. I can't remember for sure.
You're right on that too. Project Bluebeam, PBB, as I like to call it, if I'm going to pull a Stephen Greer on you, originated in the 1990s, proposed by Canadian journalist Serge Monast from Quebec, who died in 1996. He died super early too. He was like 56. It alleges that a covert operation by global elites to establish a dictatorship world government by orchestrating fake celestial or supernatural events using futuristic NASA technology.
Yeah, it's going to be Jesus in the sky. Or your Messiah.
Jesus. According to the theory, advanced holographic tech. What if it's Tranma? I'd be like, wow, that tells me a lot about myself.
Yeah.
According to the theory, advanced holographic technology would be used to project images of religious figures or extraterrestrial invasions in the sky tailored to specific cultural beliefs. These phenomena would aim to deceive populations, creating global panic and dismantling existing religious and social structures. The theory outlines several alleged stages. First, earthquakes would be triggered to unearth hidden artifacts, proving existing religions are false. Next, holographic projections would stimulate the return of divine figures, customized to each region, followed by a unifying God speaking to all people. Finally, it posits that technology would manipulate human thoughts, creating the illusion of direct communication with deities and simulating an alien invasion to justify authoritarian control. Part of the rollout of Project Bluebeam and why I'm talking about it right now is a fake alien invasion, and the start date for this was predicted as 2025. Which is fucking insane. And I just want to add that something like this is not outside of the realms of believability for what we can achieve through the technology that is out there currently.
It's a lot higher. Like, you wouldn't be able to beam into every person's head their Messiah, knowing who their Messiah is.
No, that's true. Thought reading. But I think it could get pretty close if you
It's better than it was in the 90s, that's for sure.
I mean, you can speak pretty ambiguously and people would take it as something, especially religious people. So that's what I have for you guys for this episode. Putting that all together, something's not sitting right with me about it.
Chelsea?
Yeah?
Do you want to take a look at the first page of the Immaculate Constellation release, which I think really paints it in a different light And
Okay.
it's kind of interesting that it was left out.
Okay, let's read it. Titled Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Truth, Lies, and Strategic Surprise, 13 November 2024. My name is Jeremy Corbell, and I am an American investigative journalist. My mentor in journalism is George Knapp.
Always got to
Makes
add that.
introduction. Yeah. And he's so good looking. The following document is submitted on behalf of a courageous government whistleblower who has presented evidence on the UAP issue to the appropriate committees of the United States Congress. This report includes highly credible information, not only affirming the existence of unidentified anomalous phenomena, but also exposing a decades-long conspiracy to deceive the American people and their elected representatives from uncovering the truth about the durational UAP presence on planet Earth and its potential origin. Naturally, one might ask, why not step forward directly? Why does the author remain unseen before the American public? The answer to this is nearly as unsettling as the revelations asserted within this report. In today's America, speaking truth has become a perilous endeavor. Citizens and journalists now face the grim reality of potential lethal retaliation from rogue government fractions. Whistleblowers and the journalists who support them are no longer assured freedom, safety, or prosperity in the United States of America. This should disturb every American at their core. We are witnessing the erosion of free expression under the guise of national security, a slippery descent into authoritarian censorship. Yet, the spirit of freedom remains. Brave individuals have defied intimidation and oppression to bring these truths to light. This document is merely one piece in a larger body of evidence, a rising tide of undeniable truth that cannot and will not be silenced. I have personally gone to objectively extreme measures to ensure this. My hope is that by sharing this document, Americans will feel inspired to reclaim not just their government, but the very fabric of their reality. Reality itself has been manipulated by a privileged few who, blinded by fear and greed, have disregarded the suffering of millions. What unfolds from here will shape not only the future of the United States, but that of humanity on planet Earth. I have a lot more to say on the matter, however, I request to do so under oath when I am formally invited by Congress in a hearing open to the American public. Jeremy Kenyon Lockyer Corbell.
I actually really like the end of his signature block. Co-host, weaponizedpodcast.com. He refrained him from saying co-host with George Knapp.
It definitely feels less official in that capacity.
Yeah, no, it did
when
not
he
come from
prefaces
anywhere
like that.
official. It came directly from Jeremy Corbell, who refuses to say who gave it to him.
Which is his whistleblowers, yeah.
And this was specifically excluded from the documentation of
Yes,
this.
it was. Yeah, and that's funny that you brought that up. I'm glad that you had that knowledge in this. One thing that keeps coming to me, which should be the big question that I had not heard addressed in any single one of these people speaking, is why are they lying about this?
Yeah,
What's the lie?
it's really
Why would it
weird.
lie? And there's no answer that anybody is saying.
The
What
shadow
to
government's
distract
already
them.
in control, is it not?
Yeah.
So, like,
And you do see it a lot on the news where you see something big in the news like Kim Kardashian or what have you, and then something is being like something important is happening that nobody wants to draw attention to. That does happen. Saying it's a distraction, it's gonna be a lie. What is the frickin' lie? This has been being propagated for years now, and it's crazy how often these years are coming up for years now. And why is all of this happening with all of these people coming out with it right now? If they've known for years, why are they all saying it right now? None of these people work together.
No,
a
that's the
CIA
hilarious
agent
part.
involved in it.
it's
Why?
like they're leaking off of each other. And it's I can't wait to see what happens with this. Because
It
I
is
feel like
they're
there's
leaking
a
off
lot
of
more
each other.
infighting in here.
And
But,
there's two people in this that I would not put it past them to be leaking off of each other. I mean, all of them. So my theory, like I said, something's not sitting right. Something doesn't feel right. This isn't right. I don't know if someone is leaking something to one of them and then they're all playing off each other, trying to capitalize on this, because these are mostly all grifters, just trying to capitalize on it, and they all have their own following. I don't know if this is something that's a part of a bigger and more sinister thing, but it feels like anything but what these people are saying, and they're not saying why. So
No.
it's crazy. I don't know what to make of it. I can't put it together. All of this is kind of ongoing right now. I just thought it was the egg guy. That's all I thought this disclosure thing
Yeah.
was. And I
And
didn't
one more
realize
thing-
there was all this stuff going on with aliens coming here. So I'm kind of like, this is weird.
I know, and I've been seeing things about hearing that it would be a lie if somebody says that, but I'm like, why are you warning us about this though? Like, it's so weird.
It seems it's disinformation. It feels like we're living it and getting it right now. Why? What is the purpose of them all talking about it?
Yeah.
And so,
The one thing I wanted to add with that guy who airlifted the egg out of wherever it was,
yeah.
that does remind me of that covert NASA program that retrieves satellites, no matter where they are, that we did learn about. I forget what episode it was in,
Yeah,
but it's a top secret
talk about
program where they pick up bizarre pieces of things falling from the sky. They're just very terrestrial. We put them up there.
I don't know what episode we would have even talked about that.
I can't remember either, but it came up in something. But does that not remind you of that? And it's probably this guy just wasn't told that he was a part of that.
Yes. You know what? You can't even decipher that this guy is on a helicopter or how big the object is.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And people are saying, like, they've tried to do measurements because they say it's a 250-foot lift or whatever, so you can kind of do a measurement of it. But I'm not getting into the details of that.
No, I took one look at it and I was
I
like,
can't do that
and as soon as I
professionally.
saw Stephen Greer's face on it, disclosure in 72 hours, I was just like, enough with this.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen because it's Stephen Greer and he's a fucking grifter. And I love that he's also giving his seal of approval of, the aliens are good guys. Like, I know they say they're bad, but they're good. So definitely believe me.
But we're the bad guys. I always love that part of the story. We're the bad guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't make heads or tails of this. What do you think?
Oh, I can't either. And this is why I usually like to cover them at the end, so we can say, like, these are the assholes who played this out. But hey, we get to take part in some assholery.
We're taking part in
which is like
history.
Sasquatchery, but slightly different.
Bigfootery. We're taking part in the Bigfootery.
So yeah, I actually think we might have
I'm
an update
assuming.
on this one before the end of the year. So I am excited for that. And in the
Well,
meantime,
it should be soon because
at the latest, it'll be
I'm
2027.
I am here, yeah, at the very latest, and we're the ones that just disclosed it. Damn it! No, we're the suckers. A lot of these people are saying within a couple of weeks, so
Yeah.
By the time this episode comes out, we may already have been told that they're on their way. So
Yeah, and in any event, we all hope for Tranmod to give us the next update. But in the meantime, I have been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.